BitSwap is the hottest new way to trade tokens. Crawling all the top decentralized exchanges, BitSwap will get you the very best price and value for your trades. BitSwap is changing the game. Try it now at bitswapdex.com.
Welcome to Rice TVX. You've just tuned in for the latest transmission of Stranger Than Fiction. Today I am joined by returning guest Alphonse Faggiolo. This is his third appearance on the channel. I will include a link in the video description and above for the playlist that I created with his two previous appearances. Before we get into it, visit ricetvx.com and sign up for my mailing list so you never miss an update or new Rice TVX content. You will also find my various social media links and more. Make sure you're subscribed to Rice TVX and Rice TVX2, the backup channel. Both can be found on YouTube, and hit the notification bell to get alerted for new videos. You can also find Rice TVX on Odyssey and Library, where I have a full catalog of my videos, post up extra content, and share other appearances. And you can also find Rice TVX on BitChute. To support Rice TVX directly, you can contribute or send tips to PayPal, to Cash App, or cryptocurrencies via my Cointree link in the video description. Everything is appreciated. Another way to support what I do is by joining my Patreon channel, where you will get early access to some of my videos, exclusive content, and more. Get your free half ounce of silver. Take full advantage of my partnership with Money Metals Exchange in 5 easy steps. 1. Visit moneymetals.com. 2. Be a first-time buyer. 3. Purchase a minimum of $100. 4. Use the promo code RICE. 5. Get a free half ounce of silver, and it's an additional way to support the channel. I will include links in the video description for everything I just mentioned, as well as everything shared on today's video. All right, ladies and gentlemen, join me on today's episode is Alphonse Faggiolo. This is his third appearance, which means he's been on the show 2 previous times. I have created a playlist that is going to be linked below in the video description, so I encourage you to check that one out. We're going to be continuing our last conversation. He last appeared on the show on December the 17th for his second appearance. We talked a lot about Patriot mythologies, which we're going to continue in today's episode. But also something that's going to be happening very recent. We're recording this on the 16th of February. I'm probably going to be releasing this on Thursday, the 17th. And Alphonse is going to be appearing on Beth Martin's YouTube channel or on her King's Hero podcast. And that's going to be a show with Alphonse and Cal Washington, which I'm definitely looking forward to. So, one, Alphonse, I appreciate you coming on the show. How you doing today?
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me, Chris.
Cool. Well, I appreciate. And 2, so what are your thoughts about, we were talking a little bit before we started recording, but what are your thoughts about what's going to be happening with Beth Martin's and your video that you're going to be doing with Cal Washington that may seemingly look like a debate, but you're not really looking at it as a debate type situation? But I'd like to get your thoughts.
No, listen, I watched a couple of videos of Cal's, and Cal seems like a real nice guy. Like I said, Cal's kind of guy I'd probably sit down and have a couple beers with, not a problem. He seems like a decent guy. I think Cal's had some success, but a lot of times if somebody has success, it's not for the reasons that they believe they had success for. Okay. Sometimes the outcomes happen and you think it's for one reason and it's another. And the way I think it's going to be, Cal's going to make some claims and I'm going to say, well, can you give me any evidence of that? Can you show me that in law or show me that in a court citing? And he's going to say, well, no, it's super secret knowledge that only the judges know. But that's not the definition of law. You can't have super secret laws. Okay. That's the opposite of what a law is. And there's actually, even with statutes, which are legislative directives is what a statute is. With a statute, there's a thing called statutory construction, that the statute must be clear on who it pertains to and what it pertains, what it is, basically. It can't be vague and ambiguous and open to interpretation by these judges. It's got to be clear. And you and I know it's been the complete opposite of what goes on in these municipal courts. 95% of my problem and your problem, Chris, are in these municipal courts. That's your local courts. Okay. Mm-hmm. I don't have no problem with the federal government. They haven't been on my rear end at all. Okay. My problem is with these local kangaroo municipal courts, and they're kangaroo courts. They're actually administrative courts. They're not running like judicial courts. And this is what guys like Cal are confused about, because again,
can you explain the difference between administrative courts and judicial courts?
Sure. Think about an administrative court is, listen, a municipality, which these are all municipalities. Where you live is a municipality, where I live is a municipality. Then there's municipalities within municipalities. Okay. In other words, the county of Delaware here, the county is a municipality. The town I live in, Township of Aston, it is a municipality.
Is it because they're incorporated?
I don't really know. It doesn't really have a lot to do with them being incorporated. It's just they are considered a political subdivision of the state. So the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, the county of Delaware is considered a political subdivision of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. The Township of Aston, where I live, is considered a political subdivision of the state of Pennsylvania. Okay. Now, political subdivisions were put in place to provide government services for the people, to create organization, to take care of the roads, have schools, that kind of stuff. Maintain traffic lights, the roads, blah, blah, blah. That's what a municipality is for. And what's confused people and how they've confused people is these municipalities have charters, okay? And when you have a charter allows them to tax businesses in their territory. So any business within their territory, they can get tax money from. And the reason for that charter and getting that tax money is to provide services to the people, to me and you. But over the years, they some dumb people down to believe that you and I are supposed to be paying for all these services that they're providing. Hence why you got these cops riding around in these, that they look like something out of these modules, these cars. You get in them and they got computers and they got this and that, and there's no need for that stuff. They're basically fleecing that money from the people, more money than they need to run the municipality, and through the ignorance of the people, they're basically fleecing the people and using that money to buy basically, we're funding our own destruction. Okay, let's put it that way.
Right.
By being ignorant and paying these people money that we shouldn't be paying them, we are basically funding our own destruction, because they're taking that money that we're paying to them and they're using it against us. So here's what an administrative court is. A municipality needs two things, and this is coming out of American jurisprudence. I'm not making this up. This is not my interpretation of what it is. This is actual law and case law. Municipality needs both a territory and it needs an inhabitants, okay? Inhabitants are further defined right after they tell you what, about a municipality needing an inhabitant. An inhabitant is a member of the corporation. Oh, okay. So if I live in the township, if I live in Aston, okay, Aston's a geographic region where I'm at. But the township of Aston is the municipality they're saying that this is their territory, that Aston is their territory. Okay, so even though I'm in their territory, does that create a legal obligation upon me to the township of Aston? Just because I'm in my physical location can't create an obligation to the township of Aston. Do you get that?
Yeah.
In other words, that's like McDonald's saying, well, you live 4 blocks away from us. Our ordinances, our codes are applicable to you based on your location. Because our company's in Aston, our McDonald's Corporation, and you live in Aston, so our ordinances apply to you. That's exactly what these municipalities are doing. You're in our territory. So then you must be one of our inhabitants, Chris.
Right. Now, real quick, I want to pause you because there's been a couple, it's not been bad. There's been a couple issues where your internet's went out. And me and you, before you started, we started recording, everything was good. We didn't have any issues. It seems, and you've mentioned that you have no issues except for when you're doing interviews, being recorded.
Yes.
This situation happens with the internet. So I'm not, I'm not really sure what's causing it, but I just wanted to let you know temporarily for a moment, we were starting to lose you for a second, but I don't believe we lost anything in what you were saying.
No, I'll hit it again because it's important. And just to touch on that real quick, I mean, I've had 6, 7, 8 hour conversations with Steve Emerson. Internet, not a glitch. Private conversation. Seems like these interviews,
yeah,
whatever.
As soon as you mention his name again, it starts doing it again.
I'll speak, and all of a sudden, glitch, 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 boom, boom, boom. So what I was saying is, a municipality needs two things, and they need a territory and they need inhabitants. Okay, a territory, just because they could say you live in their territory, that does not create legal obligations upon you to them. Okay, this is what confuses people. They'll say, well, you live in the township of Aston. No, I don't. I live in Aston. You guys are the township of Aston. You're the municipality that takes care of this territory. I get that. But that doesn't create any legal obligations upon me to you. And how can we prove that? Can the people from the township of Aston, can they come up and come in my house? Can they just show up and demand entry into my house? No. They would need a warrant. Okay?
Right.
So they can't even step on my property. I've had sheriffs come out to my house and I say, whoa, do not take a step on that property. And it's like they hit a brick wall. They stop. I said, sir, you don't have a warrant. You can't come on this property. Dude, you see the confusion on their face because he's trying to serve me a paper and he can't get it to me because he can't come on the property. So One guy went in the car. He was all flustered. 15 minutes he's out there talking. And I actually went out and got the paper from him because I wanted to see what's in the paper. I ain't worried about the paper. I just wanted to prove a point to him that, hey, listen, buddy, you don't understand really what you're doing. Why is a sheriff involved in what's supposed to be a civil matter? What's he doing involved in that? Okay. He's there to address crimes. He don't address civil matters. It's not his purpose. If somebody's got a civil matter with me, they got to sue me in court. But
which
they're
is
not
judicial.
Doing that. That would be judicial. Okay.
So the administrative courts is municipality related, which would be dealing with all of your mandates, all of your
traffic citations, code enforcement fines.
Right. So basically the things that the police officers are in charge of would all be municipality related. And would that include assault charges and actual harm?
Yeah, I mean, they're allowed to be. Think about it this way: that police officer is nothing more than a municipal corporation employee. He's an employee that they gave a gun enforcer. What's that?
A policy enforcer?
Think of a policy enforcer, yeah. But they gave him a gun and a title and a badge, okay? But he can make an arrest. Guess what? You and I can make an arrest too. There's actually there's citizens arrest. It actually exists, and it's supported by a ton of case law. Okay,
right.
But really, that's what he's doing in matters where, if he's seen you hit a car and take off, okay, he could chase you down and arrest you because that's a crime. Okay, same thing. You and I, if we seen somebody hit a car, not that I'm recommending this, we could chase that person down and arrest them if we wanted to and do a citizen's arrest. Not that I would recommend that because it's not real safe. Okay. But
right.
But that's really what he's doing. Okay. That's what he's involved with. So when you break that down to a citation level, he's only supposed to be interacting with you if he's got a warrant. We know when he stops you for a traffic ticket, he don't have a warrant. We know that. Or B, if he's got probable cause. And probable cause is a crime, okay? It's a commission of a crime. How do we know probable cause really means crime? If you're arrested in a criminal matter, for every arrest, there has to be what's called an affidavit of probable cause, okay? It's the first thing you look for when you get an arrest. If you're arrested, you want to see the court
arresting
docket.
Officer.
What's that?
From the arresting officers.
He's got to submit an affidavit of probable cause explaining what the crime was you committed and why he arrested you.
And he's doing it as an affidavit because that is a statement of truth.
He's got to do it. Yeah. In other words, every criminal thing filed like that, there has to be an affidavit of probable cause. If it's a crime, that he's
Okay.
trying to move against you on. So the
Just
first
getting
thing you do when you get these criminal things filed against you is you want to go get a certified copy of the court docket. You want to see every document in that court docket, because I'm going to guarantee most often, not always, but most often, you're not going to have an affidavit of probable cause. Okay. So that's what probable cause is. It's commission of a crime. So when that guy stops you for a traffic ticket and let you know the website, that's sort of, I got that on hold right now.
I'm just sharing your links, trying to mix up a little bit of what people see. Because if it's just me and you side by side the entire time, people.
No, I got you. No, I don't want to confuse people, because people are going there. I got over 32,000 people signed up on that site right now. Okay.
What are you? Since you're mentioning it, what are you going to be doing with the site?
I'm going to rework it so that it's going to be more practical stuff where I've got filings and documents and whatnot. And it's going to be basically, hey, if you get a traffic ticket, here's your step-by-step on what you're going to do. And here's why you're doing it. Okay. So you're going to have, it's going to be very much, we're not going to talk theories. We're going to talk actual laws. And like if you get a trespass citation, okay, here's what a trespass is according to the law. Only the owner can trespass you, or the person leasing the property from the owner can trespass you. And a statute, a trespass statute, can't criminalize a trespass. In other words, it can't say, well, if you don't leave the property because the owner tells you to leave, that it's a crime. Well, no, if it's a public accommodation and other people have access to the property, it's not a crime. A crime would be if I went onto the property and I was causing destruction with the merchandise, or I hit somebody in the business. That would be criminal intent. Okay. So things like that, like, listen, here's how you address this. Here's what you would file in this matter. Here's what the court's doing to you. Here's your confusion. And the main thing we're going to go over is, what's the difference between an administrative court and a judicial court? Because when I get a citation from the local code inspector for whatever it is, whether it's I didn't get a permit to put a roof on my house, or I didn't get a permit to do the driveway, or whatever it is, okay? That's an administrative process he's trying to pull me into. It's an administrative court. And how would you know that? Well, go look at your state constitution, because it states right in there, you have a right to trial by jury. It's in your state constitution. And in Pennsylvania, it states that right is inviolate, which means permanent. It means it can't be changed, can't be fiddled with. It's permanent. So when that code officer goes and files a citation against the court, and they want me to show up for a hearing, well, that little administrative court, that local municipal court, and here they're called magisterial courts. We got magisterial courts, and then the next level up is the municipal court. Okay. So the first thing it goes is to the little magisterial court. Well, there's no jury at that magisterial court. Why the hell would I show up to a magisterial court with no jury, with no complaint filed against me? Chris, is a citation, is it a criminal complaint?
I don't believe so.
Can't be.
Right.
Okay.
Now, real quick, because I don't mean to keep pausing you, but
sure.
With the website, with you redoing the website, is all the information still going to be at the same URL, the same website address?
Yeah, it can be the same website address. It's just going to be a lot more functional as far as
okay. I didn't want people. I just wanted to make sure.
If you got a specific matter, we're going to sort of direct you on how you should address it.
Cool. And I like the fact that you're wanting to compress and simplify things. I just wanted to make sure people were aware that it wasn't going to be a new website, a new web address, or anything like that. I just wanted to clarify that. So
no, because when the website was set up, it's mainly there's a chat form up there. There's a form where you can post, basically. Well, that's really the Telegram group. Okay, right. So it's sort of repeating the same information, and it gets confusing.
And those will be linked down below too. So you talked about administrative courts, and we've explained that. What exactly is judicial courts?
Well, judicial court is when you have access to a jury trial. So in all matters, you're entitled to a jury trial. Okay. So I went to one administrative hearing, and I said, well, I demand a jury trial. And the judge actually said to me, well, you're not entitled to a jury trial in this matter. Oh, I'm not. Okay. So what you just told me is you're now violating the Pennsylvania State Constitution, Article 1, Section 6. You're trying to claim that the statute has now superseded my inalienable inherent rights. Somehow the statute magically overthrew my right to a trial by jury. It can't. Okay. It's nonsense. I know it's nonsense. And he knew it was nonsense by the time I was done with him. Okay. Because he knew, he knows,
So you would define it. You would define a judicial court, though, as basically any proceeding that has a jury involved.
Yeah. Well, think about it this way. A judicial proceeding follows standard legal procedure, standard legal process. Okay. Anything that doesn't follow standard legal process is called a simulation of legal process. So here's what standard legal process is. We deal with you like I can file criminal complaints against you, but I can't file them with the court and basically have you come answer to the criminal complaints. I have to go through an intermediary, generally the district attorney. Okay, generally you have to go through the district attorney. And even if I want to get them to the state attorney general, they pass these little judicial acts, these little legislative acts that the DA has to sign off on it for the attorney general to look at it. Mm-hmm. I just went through this with the sewer authority. I sent criminal complaints to the DA and to the attorney general. The assistant attorney general of Pennsylvania sent me a letter saying, "Hey, Mr. Faggiolo, we can't get involved in this yet because of this judicial act. We need the DA to sign off on this." But she said, "I've already called ahead to the DA of Delaware County and told him to be expecting your complaint because there looks like there could be a conflict of interest here because I'm going after county employees. So how's the district attorney, who's also a county employee, right there you have a conflict. How's he going to judge other county employees?" And I made it even easier for them because I'm going to file it in the next day or two. Here's how I guarantee it gets to the assistant attorney general, to the AG's office. I name the district attorney as a defendant in the criminal complaint. I invite him to the party. "Hey, Mr. Stottlemeyer's now, he's one of the defendants in the criminal complaint." And I got good basis to do that. Okay, so now when I file that with the district attorney and I make reference to her letter saying, she said, just forward it along and the AG will look at it, there's no way that district attorney is going to be able to look at that criminal complaint and say, "We can handle this in-house." How can they investigate their own boss, the district attorney? How can the attorneys in the DA office? They can't. It's a conflict of interest. They're going to have to pass this on to the attorney general. Now, see what's starting to happen here is I'm starting to take this little municipal process and I'm starting to spread it out throughout the state.
Right.
Now I got the attorney general involved. Oh, okay. Now the rubber starts to meet the road because now we're going to find out how exactly these people are doing what they're doing. Okay. Like we said, there's an administrative courts and judicial courts. And the sewer authority, this whole thing was run through an administrative court against my objections from the start. At all times I've objected and stated that this court down here doesn't have personal jurisdiction, doesn't have subject matter jurisdiction, and doesn't have in rem jurisdiction, which has to do with the property. They don't have any jurisdiction to be even hearing this matter, yet they pushed along. So now I'm moving them into a criminal matter. I've now taken their administrative process, their administrative court, and now I've turned it into a criminal matter. Okay. So I have to go through a district attorney or a state attorney general to get a criminal matter going. Okay. Right. That's how you would do that. So, but in any other matter, civilly, I can come after you directly, or you can come after me directly in a civil matter. I have a contract with you. Okay. You breached the contract. So now I got to sue you for a breach of contract. And there's elements when I plead a breach of contract, there's three main elements to a breach of contract. A, there was a duty. B, that the duty was breached. And C, because of the breach, that was a direct causation of damages that I suffered because you breached the contract. I'd have to plead those elements. That's a civil matter, okay? I would have to sue. I'd have to put that lawsuit together, file it with the court, okay? And when I file that complaint with the court, I also give the clerk copies of summons for each person I want to have summoned. She'll stamp them, okay? She'll basically certify that they're good to go. Then I can hire a process server, okay? It costs you about $100, $150 to hire a process server. And I tell that process server, hey, go serve this guy, Chris Rice. Here's his address. Here's the summons. Right. And the process server will take the complaint, take the summons, and they'll show up at your door, knock on your door. Are you Mr. Rice? Yes, I am. You've been served. You know, you see it in the movies a million times, you know?
Yeah.
That's what's going on. So that's called standard legal process, Chris. That's what standard legal process is, okay? So
That's
now
judicial. Is that judicial, or is that not included in that?
that's a judicial process. No, that's a judicial process right there, because
not a municipal process.
No. They'll never serve you. The municipality, they'll never have a process
not
server
an
show up to your house.
administrative process.
What's that?
And not an administrative process.
No. Administrative process is you get the letter in the mail. And it says, hey, here's the citation. Look, the code guy wrote the citation. You show up to this hearing on this date.
Okay, so that explains it. Okay, that gives me a little bit more clarity, and hopefully the viewers as well.
Yeah, think about it this way. If I could just send you a letter to initiate a civil matter against you, Chris, this breach of contract, why wouldn't I stick a 50-cent stamp on there and mail it to you? Why would I go hire a process server for $100 or $150?
Right.
Because I have to, because that's the law. That's standard
that's
legal process.
That's the way that you have to serve somebody.
That's the way you have to do it, okay?
Right.
And it'll actually state in Pennsylvania case law, and I know every state's the same, they couldn't be any more clear on on a court's ability to gain personal jurisdiction over you.
What about when a sheriff comes to your house and serves you?
What's he serving you, though? Depends on what he's serving you.
Okay, so it depends on what you're being served by.
Right, like when the sheriff showed up here to bring the tax stuff. Dude, what are you doing involved in this? Well, we get involved. No. This is a civil matter.
Okay.
So this ain't a criminal matter. Why are you involved in a civil matter? And you should see the look on their faces. well, this is what we do. I know that's what you do, but you don't have any authority to be doing this. Okay, this is a civil matter. This is between me and whoever's claiming I owe this money to them. What are you doing out here serving me papers? You're not a process server.
Do you think he understood or comprehended what you were saying, or do you think that he just didn't have any knowledge of that?
No, here's what's going on with him, okay? Under the tax statutes, he's allowed to serve papers on tax matters, okay? So he's automatically assumed, because the county told him, go send me papers, go bring me these papers, that the statute must apply to me, and he has authority to then come out and hand me these tax papers. Is he a court, that sheriff? Is he a court?
No.
Does he have any judicial power whatsoever to make any kind of legal determinations upon me? No. Okay.
No.
He's an enforcement branch. Okay. He can only enforce things. Warrants. He can go pick people up for a warrant. Or if he sees me commit a crime, probable cause, he can do something. He's got no understanding of what he's in the middle of. Okay. All he knows is the county, he's their water boy. Okay. He does whatever the county goes to tell him to do. The county tells him, this guy's a taxpayer. Go send him, go deliver these papers to him. But wait a minute. Does the county have any judicial power over me? No. Okay. They're not a court. The county government has no judicial power over me. Okay. And how do we know that for a fact? Because how do we say court proceedings are initiated, Chris? Service of process, right?
Right.
Okay. Did the county serve me? No. He's not serving me. The sheriff's not serving me. It's not a lawsuit he's serving me. There's no complaint. There's no summons there. He's bringing their paperwork to me. He's a delivery boy for the county, and he's moving under a statute, okay? He's making an assumption that the statute must apply to me because the county told him I'm a taxpayer to go, I'm delinquent on the taxes and go serve this guy. Well, wait a minute. The county doesn't have an authority, and neither does the sheriff. This is how you get them in these quandaries. But unless you know how to challenge this stuff, and the way you would really challenge it is they're going to get sued in federal district court. And then they're going to have to, which they're not going to be able to do, they're going to have to answer that pleading that I filed with the court. And they have to explain how they did what they did, okay?
Right.
How they filed this stuff against me without any due process. Remember, Pennsylvania courts are clear. In order to gain personal jurisdiction, there must be service of process. If there's any defect in that service of process, whether it's a defect in the way the court issued it, or is a defect in the person serving it to you, or the party serving it to you, if there's any defect in that process, the court does not have personal jurisdiction in the matter. Courts need both personal and subject matter jurisdiction. If they're missing either one, they can't hear the matter. So right off the bat, here's what your listeners should know. If I never had a process server show up, does that court have personal jurisdiction over me? Can't.
From the way that you're explaining it, no.
No, it can't. Possible. It's an impossibility, okay? They're trying to tell me if I jump in the water, I won't get wet. Okay. or they're gonna, or they can bake apple pies without apples. Okay. This is what they're trying to tell you. Hey, we got personal jurisdiction, but we don't have a complaint before us, and we never served you. But we got personal jurisdiction.
Now, since you're saying all this, if we have time, and hopefully we will, and I'm going to try to make sure we do, I want to record a second part that will be specific to Patreon, because you had helped me out with some information when we first met, and it has to do with a legal case in a Commonwealth state, which is very similar to Pennsylvania and Virginia. So I'd like for people that are interested in hearing about this and hearing a little bit about the more method behind Alphonse's madness to check out the second part. It's not really the second part, but a continuation of this conversation that will be on Patreon. That's going to be dealing with a specific case that I have that I'm trying to get resolution for. So Alphonse, I appreciate you explaining the difference between the judicial and the administrative courts. And
well, let's touch on it. Let's move to part 2 now, right here, real quick. Now,
okay.
now your people know what personal jurisdiction is. Okay. In other words, you need to have a complaint served to you with a summons attached, so that you have what, Chris? You have due process of law. Here's what due process is. It's a notice and an opportunity to respond. In other words, I need to know who's making a claim against me, who's suing me, and why are they suing me? That's what the complaint and the summons are. And the summons is for me to answer this complaint that this person filed. I got to answer it, okay? Or I can get a default judgment against me. They can get a default judgment. If I don't answer, they go to the court and go, hey, this guy didn't answer. And the court will go, oh, we'll give you a default judgment. There you go.
Your internet started to kind of lock up for a second. So I just want to kind of make sure we get
that clear. So the main thing, let's get people's in their head personal jurisdiction, that there's got to be, somebody's got to give you service of process for that court to have personal jurisdiction over you. You've got to be served a complaint with a summons attached, so that you have proper notice and opportunity, that's due process, to respond back. How can I answer something I don't know what the claim is? You know, you give me some citation, I don't know what that is, okay? I need to know what it is. Who's making the claim?
You get pulled over by a police officer for probable cause because you're supposedly speeding. That doesn't enact the due process of law that you're talking about, right?
Let's break it down even further. Let's look at that pullover from the cop. Let me ask you this. I mean, you might not know this. A lot of people don't know this. If I'm going to sue you, and I remember we talked about that lawsuit where I got to serve you. Say it's a contract breach between us. You breach the contract, and I'm going to sue you.
Okay.
I can't have my buddy Joe go knock on your door and go, hey, Chris, I'm Al's buddy. Here's the criminal complaint. Here's the summons for you. I got to get an independent third party to serve you. Okay? It's got to be somebody unrelated to the case to serve you.
So it can't be a police officer, a sheriff, or anything like that?
No. In a federal lawsuit, I can get a federal marshal to serve you.
Okay.
But he's not related to the case in any way.
All right.
Okay. That marshal has nothing to do with whatever I'm suing somebody for.
It's got to be an unrelated third party that has
unrelated third party
to do with the case.
Of age, of the age of consent. I can't have a kid come serve you. I can't send my cousin to come serve you. So you got to have there's got to be process of service, basically. Now let's look at that traffic citation. Isn't that cop claiming he's a witness in this matter against you? Right? He's saying he's a witness. Isn't the cop claiming he's a witness in this traffic citation matter? Isn't he acting like a witness? Like when you go to the hearing, isn't he going to be a witness against you?
Yes.
Okay. So we just talked about service of process. Who's got to give service of process? Can I take one of my witnesses that witnessed that you breached the contract, that, you're supposed to show up Monday at 10 o'clock and you didn't show up, and I got a witness here with me stating that Chris was not there at 10 a.m. That's my witness. Can my witness serve you that lawsuit? No.
That seems like a conflict of interest.
It's a conflict of interest, isn't it? Isn't that what the cop's doing? Now he's both. Think about it. He's a witness, and now he's a process server. Can that happen? No. Okay. Now, here's what's really weird with traffic stuff, with citations. Most states, not all, I know Massachusetts treats them as civil matters, but most states treat traffic as criminal. Well, now we're in a whole other problem. Now we have a whole other set of problems when you're going to treat traffic as criminal. And they know that, and you'll hear them say, well, it's quasi-criminal. Well, quasi-criminal. I'm looking at state federal constitutions. I don't see the words quasi in there nowhere, okay? That's like saying the girl, she's quasi-pregnant. Yeah, she's not pregnant, she's quasi-pregnant. I don't really know what that means, okay? It's either civil or it's criminal here, okay? It's got to be one or the other. Pretty basic stuff here. So
Yeah.
how's that cop going to be a witness and the process server? So let's think about it even more. What did we just say, Chris? Can I file? We talked about this earlier. Here's where you start tying this stuff together. Can I file a criminal complaint against you directly? In other words, can I take you to the court for a criminal complaint? No.
Not a criminal complaint. No. A civil complaint, yes.
Right. I got to go through the DA generally, right? I got to file my criminal complaint with the DA against you. He's got to look at my criminal complaint and go, yup, Mr. Faggiolo's got some good stuff here. It looks like there's crimes here. Let me refer this to the county grand jury. That's how a criminal matter gets started. The DA would take my criminal complaints and hand them over to the county grand jury. Then the county grand jury would decide whether to issue a bill, basically stating that they want to pursue this further and they're going to bring criminal charges against you. Okay, that's how criminal matters are handled. So if this cop in this quasi-criminal matter, or criminal as we know, this pulls you over, how exactly is he filing a criminal complaint against me directly? If I can't do it to him, can I file a criminal complaint against that cop directly? Nope. I got to go to the DA. I can file criminal complaints against him, but I got to file them with the DA first and tell the DA, here's what this guy did. And the DA then determines whether to impanel a grand jury, you know? Mm-hmm. So if I can't do that to that cop, I can't file criminal complaints against him directly. How's that citation that they're trying to treat as criminal? How can that be?
Well, I mean, the argument I'm assuming by the courts would be that this is a trained officer in the matters of law. So because
they're never going to say that.
Because so he went. Well, I mean, because he went. What's the whole point of going to a police academy and learning about all this stuff if you don't have the authority to enact writing somebody a ticket and that ticket sticking?
You could actually get a police officer you can get the prosecutor moving the case against you actually impeach the officer himself. You could say to the officer, hey, listen, when you stopped me, did you assume that you had jurisdiction over me? He's going to say yes. Did you assume that the traffic code, transportation codes applied to me? Yes, he's going to say. You got it, okay? Then your next question, and here's where the prosecutor is going to jump in and object. Sir, what evidence do you have that when you stopped me, you had jurisdiction and that the transportation codes are applicable to me? Sir, what evidence do you have? Objection. You're going to hear a prosecutor. Objection. That requires a legal determination. And the officer, he'll state the officer's not qualified to make a legal determination. But wait a minute. He just testified. Didn't he just testify that he made the assumption that my physical location gave him jurisdiction over me? Right? I asked him. And I asked him that he assumed that the transportation code applied to me. And he said yes. He's got to say yes. Isn't that also a legal determination? Hasn't he made two legal determinations that he's already testified to? I asked him, did my physical location, did you assume you had jurisdiction over me? He's going to say yes. Sir, did you determine based on my physical location that the transportation codes applied to me? He's got to say yes. Okay. He's got to. It's not even an option for him, okay? Because if he says no, what are we doing here? Okay. What are we doing at this hearing?
Based on your knowledge, why do you say that those police officers do not have jurisdiction over you because of where you live?
How does my physical location?
Because the courts are going to, like from my comprehension, if you live in a certain territory, they make you assume that you are responsible for the laws of that territory.
But see, the burden of proof is always on the accuser. So first, he's got to prove that my physical location gave him jurisdiction over me. Good luck with that. How's that work? How does my physical location take every statute and code written by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania? How does it make that automatically applicable to me?
What laws would be applicable to you?
Well, obvious criminal codes, like certain criminal codes where if I actually harm or damage somebody, that the statute's going to apply.
So causing harm.
Causing harm, yeah, something that's actual real crime, okay? But if you're going to say that, that some idiot in Harrisburg wrote some codes up, and that because I live in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, that he's now can just drop codes on my head and determine that you could do this to me and you could do that to me because they said so, doesn't work like that. Yeah, burden of proof. Burden of proof's on him to prove that my physical location gave him jurisdiction over me, number one. Number two, he's not got to prove that the transportation code's applicable to me. What evidence do you have of that, sir? Prosecutor, right off the bat, objection. Officer's not qualified. That he'll say this requires a legal determination. The officer's not qualified to make a legal determination in this matter. Great. I want you to strike the ticket, and I want you to get this whole thing out of here because Mr. Prosecutor just impeached his own witness. He just told you he's not qualified to make determinations of jurisdiction, and he's not qualified to make determinations of whether the transportation code applies to me. Yet Mr. Officer just testified that my location gave him jurisdiction and that the traffic code applied to me. He's already made legal determinations in this matter. How else did we get here? Okay. Right. So now they have a problem. This is how you flip them on the head with just basic facts of what they're doing. Is it's criminal from the start of what they're doing to you. Why is that guy pulling you off the road because you went through a red light? Unless you listen, I follow the traffic codes for one reason. I think it's good. It's safe because I want to know that the other guy's stopping at the red light. Okay. And I got the green light. I can go safely. So that's like an agreement between all of us. Let's all agree to that. But just because one guy violates the traffic code, if he didn't hit my car or he didn't cause me any harm or damage, you really can't penalize the guy. Can't do nothing to him. Now, right. Might dick move on his part. That's all, he didn't follow it, or maybe he didn't see it. Okay. But unless he caused harm or damage, what criminal act happened here? Now you're doing code enforcement because somebody wrote that I got to stop at the red light. Okay.
Well, one argument that I have not heard you use, and this kind of comes up in some of the Patriot mythology stuff that we've talked about, is the idea of driving versus traveling.
No, that's not Patriot. That's not Patriot mythology.
So is there truth to that?
Yeah, that's not Patriot mythology.
Well, then, but if there's truth to that, then couldn't you just negated everything that you said by just saying that I wasn't driving, I was traveling?
But you could see. Here's the problem: they get involved. Here's where the Patriots get in trouble with that stuff.
Okay,
they will make it that elemental. I wasn't driving. Well, that's not going to go over well in any kind of hearing. What you need to do is you need to dig into the traffic code and go read it and see who it applies to, and then you form your argument. Because in Pennsylvania, it'll state persons, trusts, partnerships. It'll actually define what a person is, that the code applies to persons. And it'll talk about when you read what transportation is, go look what the courts have said transportation is. Transportation is moving goods or people for payment, basically. That's what transportation is. And that's what the traffic code, the driving code is. It's transportation code.
Commerce.
Yeah, listen, they wanted to regulate, which is not a bad thing. They wanted to regulate these businesses that are using the roads, that have these 18-wheeler trucks on them.
Right.
Okay? Because they're dangerous. Listen, those trucks are dangerous. They should be regulated as far as making sure they're safe, making sure the tires, that they don't have a blowout, and the friggin' truck's going to turn over on your car and kill you. Mm-hmm. That's what they were put there to do, okay, to regulate commerce, commercial businesses. You and I going from point A to point B to the store to go get some stuff, we're never supposed to be under that transportation code. It was never written for us. But over the years, through customs, practices, and policies, it's almost taken on the force of law. It's not law, but it's taken on the force of law. Okay? Right. And to bring it back to its most basic element, is me getting in a vehicle and moving from point A to point B, isn't that a right I have? That's a right that I have, okay? That's they can't stop me from getting in a vehicle, no matter what it is, whether it's got a motor or not, and moving from point A to point B. It's none of their goddamn business.
But you're utilizing government paid roads, whether locally or federally paid, state.
They're public roads, and if you go read what public roads are, it states that you have a right to access the public road. Did you know that? If you go dig in your state codes, your driving codes, Dave Merlin, who's done a lot of stuff on traveling and driving, He cites the Washington one, and I looked up the Pennsylvania version, and it states that the roads are public, and yet you have a right to use the roads. So if it says right there, you might use roads. Now let me ask you this.
Yeah, the roads were created for the postal code basis for delivering mail, and it should be the responsibility of the post offices, and that's kind of where people talk about not being a resident.
No. Listen, it's not. The roads are not created for the postal service. The roads are created for the people. Okay, this is to make things. Remember, I said municipalities collect taxes in their territory to provide services for the people, and one of the services that they pave roads for convenience and for what it's to also facilitate commerce, because it's easier to truck stuff when you have roads. Okay,
Right.
Has to do with that. Listen, a resident. That's also, think about a resident as an inhabitant. Remember we talked about what an inhabitant is? Mm-hmm. When you see resident, go read what a resident actually is. And there's actually court sightings on what a resident is. You know, a resident actually states that a resident, they rent property from the owner. There's a citation there, a citing, court citing that a resident rents property from the owner. Well, this is my house. I'm not renting from nobody. How can I be a resident? Right. I'm not a resident. So resident is just another term that they're trying to think of. Like I said, think of resident as inhabitant. When you dig down at what resident actually is, a resident of what? If you're going to say I'm a resident of the township of Aston, and how does that create duties or obligations upon me? Can you show it to me? Because I can't find it nowhere. Okay. But that's think of resident as just another term for inhabitant. It's the same thing. Hey, listen, instead of saying, it's a fancy word for inhabitant. Instead of saying, Chris, you're an inhabitant of the township of Aston, they're just going to say, Chris, you're a resident of the township of Aston. In other words, you're a member of the corporation. Remember what I said what an inhabitant is? It's a member of the corporation. So is a resident. A resident is a member of the corporation. I'm not a member of the township of Aston. That's what a resident is.
But being a member of the corporation, doesn't that put you underneath of their jurisdiction and their bylaws?
Yes, if I was an employee of the township of Aston, I'd have to follow their bylaws. Just like if I worked for McDonald's, I'd have to follow their dress code and their other bylaws.
If you worked for them, if
I worked for them, right. Or if I was in contract with them. In other words, those contracts, they sign contracts with different municipalities and different other legal entities. And part of those contracts may be that legal entity must follow the municipality's ordinances and codes. Okay? So if I was a builder in Aston and I sign a contract with the township of Aston, I'm sure I would have to follow their ordinances and codes as to, what I could do, how I could do it. So unless I'm a member of the corporation, which is an inhabitant, or I'm in some kind of contract with them where I've agreed to follow their ordinances and codes, their ordinances and codes have nothing to do with me. They can't. Remember, here's the most basic part too. What's the only body that can make laws?
I believe it's supposed to be the Congress, is it not?
Congress. Whether it's your state Congress, they make state laws, or the federal Congress, they make federal laws. Mm-hmm. Can the Congress delegate their lawmaking authority to other bodies?
I don't believe you can outsource that now.
There's actually sightings up in Amjur. A power delegated cannot be redelegated. Okay? So think about it now. Remember we talked about political subdivisions earlier. How you tie this all together. The township of Aston is a political subdivision of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Okay? Mm-hmm. So these ordinances, did the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania pass these Township of Aston ordinances? Did they make the Township of Aston ordinances?
I would say no.
No. Guess who made the Township of Aston ordinances? The Township of Aston Council. Okay? They made the ordinances. Every municipality or local municipality, they have ordinances and codes you can generally download online in a PDF form.
Are you saying that they're not qualified to do so?
They're not lawmakers.
Right.
In other words, the council for the Township of Aston, they can pass ordinances for what? For members of their corporation, their inhabitants, or for legal entities that are in contract with the township. Their ordinances, they can then pass for those entities. The 7 idiots up here in the Township of Aston, they are idiots, okay? They can't write laws for me. They're not lawmakers. They have no lawmaking authority. Yet everything they're doing is they're doing under an ordinance. Well, their ordinance is not the law. It's like you said, you hit it what it was. It's a bylaw. It's a corporate bylaw written for the corporation. Well, I'm not an inhabitant of the corporation. I'm not an employee, and I'm under no contract with you people. So now your bylaws and your ordinances, they got nothing to do with me. They can't have anything to do with me. That's like me and my buddy Joe getting together and coming up with some rules and saying, hey, you guys are in our area, our territory. We're going to need you to do this for us. Here.
Right.
If I can't do it to them, they can't do it to me. That's the bottom line with all this stuff. If I can't do it to you, Chris, you can't do it to me. I don't care under what flag you're flying, whether you're claiming you're a municipality or you're the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. If I can't do it to you, you cannot do it to me. That's the law. That's what law is.
So when another thing that kind of gets talked about in the whole legal fiction realm is the idea that your social security number and your birth certificate is creating an artificial legal entity that puts you as a part of the corporation, which puts you underneath the municipality of the federal government, which would in fact work its way down all the way to the bottom. What are your thoughts on that?
I challenge anyone that says that to go find me any law that shows that process or any court citing where that process is explained, because it doesn't exist. Nowhere will you see. First of all, I don't see anything in any case law or law that you even need to have a social security number. There's no requirement to have a social security number. I know people have gotten rid of their social security numbers. Eddie Craig, who's on the Rule Law Radio with the show radio station Randy's on, I think Eddie rescinded his social security number, got rid of it. Okay, so there's no requirement you have a social security number. The birth certificate is for one purpose. It's to prove that you were born on that date at that place. That's it. That birth certificate has no legal force whatsoever involving you. It can't. Okay, it's not a legal document.
So the digits, the numbers that are on these documents, these 9-digit
everything's got numbers on it. I don't care what the number is.
They're not QSIP numbers. What about people who talk about their stuff being traded on Duns and Bradstreet and things to that effect? I've not seen anything where I've seen myself trade it, so I can't really say for sure.
No, yeah. Listen, I had an idiot that called in the Best Show to one time, and he claimed that my birth certificate was being traded. I said, first of all, you're an idiot. I said, number two, show it to me. Show me the proof. My birth certificate is being traded, and I got nothing. Okay, nothing back. So I don't know what the numbers are. I don't really care what the numbers are on there. It doesn't matter. Why do I care about what's on the birth certificate, what those numbers are, what they're using it for? I don't care what they're doing with those numbers. Don't really give a damn. It's got nothing to do with me. Okay, whatever they do with that certificate.
You don't believe it has anything to do with like what I was mentioning, creating an artificial legal entity that puts you underneath their jurisdictional control.
No, that's not how jurisdiction works. We talked about jurisdiction. Listen, jurisdiction is pretty simple.
I know, and I've gained that. But go ahead and clarify.
No, you see where they start to get in. They start to fall into the quicksand with that stuff. They're trying to claim, like you were just saying, that birth certificate and that social security number give the government jurisdiction over you, right? That's their claim. What did we just talk? Did we just talk about what personal jurisdiction is and what subject matter jurisdiction is? Somebody's got to have a complaint filed against you. Without a complaint, the court has no subject matter jurisdiction in the case. Somebody's got to file a complaint against you. If they don't file a formal verified complaint, which means somebody signed it under the penalty of perjury and they filed a complaint against you, that court doesn't have subject matter jurisdiction. So if a court needs to establish jurisdiction, they need service of process. That's to get personal jurisdiction. And they need subject matter jurisdiction. And the only way to get that is through a complaint. If that's how a court is required to get jurisdiction in a matter, how the hell is a birth certificate and a social security number create jurisdiction for some government legal entity? It doesn't. It can't. It never can. Okay.
Right. Well, and I've never seen it written down anywhere in any capacity. And it seems like the way that law works is it has to be written and it has to be understood, comprehended. And then you can also have precedences being set with other cases. But when there's nothing being mentioned, because we talked on our second episode together about status correction. There's nothing that says that there is any benefit, any truth that you can actually correct your status where you're no longer a U.S. citizen. I'm not saying it's not true, but I've not found the evidence to back any of this stuff up. And from your understanding, your comprehension, your research, this stuff should be written down.
It has to be. It can't be law if it's not written down. Not only does it have to be written down,
because otherwise that's secret law, and you said that can't exist.
You can't have secret law. That's not law. That's the opposite definition of law. If it's secret, it's the 180 degree complete opposite of law. Listen, right. Law has to be written down, and what did we talk about earlier? It's got to be clear who it applies to, and what the application is. Okay. It can't be vague and ambiguous, okay? And there's actually case law in Pennsylvania that states, listen, the courts are not for, giving opinions. Courts are for real.
Hold on. You're starting to lock up again. If I pause you and talk for a second, sometimes it helps to clear things up, and then you just kind of repeat what you were saying, and I apologize.
Okay. Courts are for justicable controversies. They're not there to give opinions. They're not there to look at something and go, yeah, Chris, I think you should pay because it's my opinion. It looks like you should pay. No. It's got to be a justicable controversy. There's got to be a party that's seeking redress, which is damages of some sort. Either they had a right violated. Justicable. Yeah. Okay. They say justicable controversies. In other words, it's got to be a matter where we can adjudicate. We can litigate it. Someone just can't come in and go, yeah, I'm looking at the statute over here. I think it applies to Faggiolo. Judge, I'm going to need you to fine him because I think that this applies to him. And the judge looks at it and goes, oh, I think you're right. No, that's not law. That guy would have to bring a complaint in and state, he'd have to show that I had a duty in some way, that I breached that duty, and that my breach of whatever that duty was somehow caused that corporation he's claiming to speak for damages. How did I do that? That's what a justicable controversy is. Okay, it's got elements: duty, breach, and damages. That's a justicable controversy. It's not an opinion thing where some lawyer looks at the statute and says, I think Title 53 applies to Faggiolo. Fine him. Okay, that's an opinion. Okay, that's not a justicable controversy because he never pled a cause of action against me. He never showed that I had a duty, that I breached that duty, and that because I breached it, I somehow caused his client damages. That's what a justicable controversy is. Courts are not there to give opinion. They're there for justicable controversies. And where do we start on that? I forget where we went off on the topic. What were we talking about?
I think we were talking about it started with birth certificates and social security numbers and being a artificial legal entity that puts you as part of the corporation, which gives them municipal control. So I mean,
so now we hit jurisdiction on that matter with the birth certificate and the social security number. Chris, have you ever seen someone walk into a hearing, a prosecutor, and say, "Got Mr. Rice's birth certificate right here. We got jurisdiction in this matter"?
No.
Okay. Did you ever see somebody bring your social security number in and say, "Got Mr. Rice's social security number here. We got jurisdiction in this matter"?
I can't say that I have.
I never have. Okay. So now we know about that. Now let's go into more of the absurdity of this. Listen, people are saying the birth certificate is security and those numbers are QSIP numbers. That's called securities fraud. Okay.
Right. And we discussed the trust aspect, the creditor account that people talk about that was created at your birth, attached to your social security and your birth certificate number and other numbers like your bank account. And you definitely have went into a lot of length of conversation about. So I really would like for people to make sure that they're checking out that second video that we did. Because we really covered the status correction and the trust in a lot of detail. There was some different, because we had covered those in a lot of detail, there were a few things that I wasn't able to ask, and that was kind of what I wanted to do throughout today. And you've covered a lot of it. I did want to ask you about the idea, because I know this isn't like one of your areas of specialty, but the idea of a private membership association or private societies. Do you see any benefit in these from your knowledge that you have?
Yeah, I mean, I have no horse in that race, but that sounds like, listen, if I have a business myself and I don't need certain businesses who need to interact with other outside businesses, you know, they require to interact with other outside businesses. Those kind of people have to be registered in some way, or else the other business a lot of times won't even deal with you. Okay, so if I have a business and I depend on this other business, that other business might require that in order for them to do business with me, they're going to require I have a license with the state. Okay, so certain businesses you're sort of handcuffed, depending on what your business is. Okay, you're sort of handcuffed. You may have to have a license. If I'm a guy fixing computers in my house, I only never need to get a state license. Okay, I just fix computers at my house and nobody's business. So right. I have no limitation on me with that. Okay. But if my business of what I'm doing, if I'm required to interact as part of my business is that I have to order parts or whatever from this other company and they require in order to deal with me, I have to have a business license. Well, now I have to go to the state and get a business license. I'm sort of handcuffed because of my business. It seems like the people I know that are in my Telegram group, there seems to be a great benefit to setting up private membership associations. Now, I'm no expert on private membership associations.
Right. But, I know we've talked about that in the past. I just wanted to kind of get your...
Yeah. I mean, listen, if you got a business if I've got a business, so what I'm trying to say is, if I have a business and I don't have to deal with the outside public, deregister your business. And like if I'm the guy fixing computers, what the heck do I need an LLC to have to register with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania for? Why would I do that? I'm just going to fix computers, put the money in my pocket. It's nobody's business what I do. That's my right that's my, I have a substantive right to exist, to work, to live, you know? So if you're in that part of business or you want to start a business like that, don't even register your business. Just do your business. And if somebody's got a problem with you, let them come to you and explain how you can't do your business because you didn't register it with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So that's one way I would go. But if I'm in a business where I have to interact with other outside businesses who require I be licensed, I think you may want to look into the PMA route. You know, go look at the benefits of what a private membership association is.
Yeah, well, so
if you don't do a private membership association, you still, believe it or not, even though you have a CITIS with the state, that's what a CITIS is. When you register a business with the state, it's called a CITIS. Okay, it's a nexus between the state, you, and your business. It's a legal link. Okay, that's when, say I'm fixing computers at my house and I registered my business as Faggiolo Computer Repair, and I registered with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Well, they would charge me an excise tax on the privilege of doing the business, okay, at my property, and then they would charge me a property tax because I'm using the property to conduct the business privilege. See what I'm saying? So they charge me an excise tax for doing the privilege of doing the business, and then they're going to charge the property a second separate tax called a property tax. And boy, did I learn that here when I did a record request with the local township, because they had an attorney file a lien against my property. And I said, give me the contract between the township and the law firm. And they stated, we don't have no contract with them. Okay. Oh, so this guy woke up one day and just decided to create a lien against me. So what they did is they sent me a contract for the collection firm that collects the money, these unpaid taxes. And lo and behold, who's the president of the collection firm? One of the attorneys who they don't have a contract with. He's the president of the collection firm. And so I'm looking at the contract they have, and expiration date, 2015. See, 7 years ago. This thing expired 7 years ago. They sent me an expired contract, okay? And further, they sent me a smoking gun. Because right there on page 1, it states that collection firm, who that attorney is the president of, are specifically tasked with collecting mercantile and business privilege taxes. It says it right there, mercantile and business privilege taxes. What do we just talk about, Chris? Am I a merchant? Is there any business privileges taking place at my property? Am I a merchant? No.
No.
This is my shelter. Live here, okay? I eat, sleep, drink, and like Steve says, monkey business, okay? That's the only thing goes on here. So if that collection firm, look, it's telling you right there that they can only collect taxes from what? Legal business entities, right? Because they're tasked with collecting mercantile and business privilege taxes. So if they got me on their tax roll and they got their collection firm trying to collect mercantile business privilege taxes from me, and it's obvious I'm not a merchant, there's no business privileges going on here, aren't they falsifying their tax rolls? How did they get my private property that's being used not for nothing but shelter onto their commercial ad valorem tax roll?
Right.
They're falsifying their tax rolls. That's what your property taxes are. That's where people get thrown off of property taxes. That's exactly what's going on with your property taxes.
Interesting. So with the PMA thing, with the Private Membership Association, it's kind of I've been looking a little bit more into the idea of an unincorporated association where you're not registering your business and you can actually, it appears, operate in the private, and so you can have a bar.
Right. The speakeasy. That's where it came from, the speakeasies.
Yeah. So, and I was talking with Robert Michael, who's a friend of mine who I have on the show, and he deals with the PMAs a lot. And he was saying that in Arizona, a speakeasy was able to get around a lot of the local municipality laws because of the private agreements. Now, the other thing that comes into play, because I was also looking into the idea of, because I used to work as a DJ in gentlemen's clubs, they require a membership. One of the main reasons they do that pretty much is so that they can discriminate, so that they can say that you don't match our dress code, or you need to have a membership, and it takes 3 days for the decision to come back as to whether or not you can be granted a membership, things like that. So I found that interesting. And so that's an area that I definitely want to be exploring more. And as I get a little bit more knowledgeable and start doing some of these roundtable conversations, I'd like to invite you in to kind of eavesdrop so that you can absorb some of this information, so it's not taking away from your normal research. And that way, maybe you might be able to, maybe something will click in your head with some of these different ideas of interacting in the private. Because basically what you're doing with your website, I would say kind of create that as a private membership association.
Well, there are a lot of people confused what private and public is. Listen, there's no such thing as just operating in the private. Okay, depends on what it is. I mean, you're not people think that they can live their lives in the private. Okay,
you can't completely operate.
No, you got to live in the woods somewhere. Be like outcast from society.
Right.
You got to interact with people. Private has to do with a contract, which would be a private membership association. So say I start a beer drinking club. And I'm having meetings at my house, okay?
Mm-hmm.
It's a private club. Well, I don't have to let everybody in my house,
Right.
Maybe the guy's a sex offender, one of the guys who wants to join my private membership association, okay? I don't want the guy in my house, okay? Right. I can discriminate against him.
That makes sense.
But if I'm a public accommodation open to the public, I can't discriminate against the child molester. If he's allowed to walk around the streets, he can walk into my business. I can't tell him to get out. Right. So there's a difference between the private and the public, okay? One, if I set it up, my little club we were talking about, wouldn't that be a private membership association, my club? If I register as a PMA, I registered it?
Well, you wouldn't even have to really register. You would just create and operate in the private.
Exactly.
Because when I have a feeling that when you register your business, whether being nonprofit or whatever the situation might be, you're putting yourself underneath the jurisdictional control of those municipalities as a business.
As soon as you register, what do you create with the state? We talked about this earlier. You create a CITUS. A nexus.
Is that CITS?
SITUS. SITUS.
XITUS?
S like in Sam.
SITUS.
CITUS. So if you were to register your PMA, you still create a CITUS. If you register legal documents with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, you still create a CITUS in a way. Now, it may be a less oppressive CITUS than a normal business would have, because like you said, you could do things in that private membership association that you can't do in a public accommodation. We talked about the child molester. I can keep him out of my private membership association. they can't keep him out of a public accommodation if
Right.
he's not doing anything wrong, So that's the private and the public. But the reason I touched upon that is I hate people post often. They think they're going to live their life in the private. There's no such thing. If you're living in society, you're living among the people, you've got to interact with people, basically. So there's no such thing as living in the private. Certain things you can live in the private. If me and you have a contract with each other, as long as the elements of our contract are legal, none of the government's business. No legal entity's business of what our contract is. Nobody can interfere in my contract and your contract. If it's got all legal elements in there, nobody can interfere in our contract. Now, if I had a contract about robbing banks, that's different. That's an illegal element. The government can get involved. Hey, you idiot, you can't have a contract about robbing banks. That's a felony, So that's private. Any contract between you and I, and really, that's what a private membership association is. In a way, it's a contract between you and each member. You've got a contract member, okay? And then you can discriminate on certain things, on what you find acceptable in your private membership association.
Now, you can't outright discriminate, or you can be, because like in a situation
you
where
can't do something illegal.
Clubs,
yes.
Right. You can't tell these gentlemen that they can't come into the club because of their skin color. We don't.
Right. Exactly. Like I said.
But they can use dress code and other excuses.
Yes. Things within reason. Yes. Yes. In other words, anything that's not illegal. Okay. Like if I said, "Hey, Chris, you can't come in here unless you're sterilized." Well, that's an illegal element. I can't enforce that or push that upon you. So even though it's a PMA, they've still got to act within. They can't have illegal elements as part of the requirement to be a part of their membership, the private membership. Hey, listen, Chris, you're part of this private membership, but every month you got to go out and murder somebody. That's one of the, it's one of the requirements to be a member of our PMA. Well, no, murder's an illegal act. You can't run out and go murder somebody.
Well,
and
yeah, when you're causing harm, when you cause harm, that kind of breaks that.
Yeah, it's got to be, like I said, it's got to be within reason. That's why when people say we have a policy, a dress code policy, that's fine. That's within reason, okay? Like, hey, listen, we want you to dress, dress pants and a white shirt and a tie, because that's part of your business, and that's what you're presenting to the public, and you require that. That's fine. You go on a whole different direction when you start saying, "Oh, by the way, I'm going to need you to get vaccinated." Whoa, wait a minute. How can you determine what healthcare decisions to make for me? First of all, there is no law in existence that states anybody can require you to get a vaccination. Doesn't exist. When you sue somebody for something like that, there's nobody coming in who are going to put in a legal document that it's a law that you need to be vaccinated. That ain't going to happen. And that's why, here's what you're not seeing either. People are saying, well, I'm not seeing these settlements. Well, no, you're not going to see them. Because when somebody sues you properly and they hit you with the basic obvious, you're trying to enforce a law that doesn't exist. Now it's a deprivation of rights under the color of law. You're trying to claim a mandate is a law.
Yeah.
And that mandate can be imposed upon me. And we already know who only body that makes laws? The legislature. Right? So President Idiot Biden, whatever, does he make law?
He's not supposed to, but he apparently does.
He can't make law.
Well, the presidents do with executive orders, unfortunately.
The executive order is applicable to entities under their jurisdiction and under their control. He can't go make an executive order for you. He can't go write up an executive order to do something to you. He could do it for administration of the government or for
employees of the government.
Employees for the government, contractors with the government, things that are under his jurisdiction. He can't go, I'm going to go create an executive order for Chris Rice. I'm going to go take his car. Executive Order 101. Go take Chris's car. No, he don't have that authority. He's not a legislator. And even if the legislators were to pass something ridiculous like that, obviously we could challenge.
Right.
You guys don't have any authority to be doing this. So mandates are not laws. So if you were to sue somebody and you nail them with listen, when you write a proper pleading, and that's what they're called pleadings, and you file it, that's your complaint, and you file with the federal district court, If there's stuff in there that the other side can't answer, you ain't getting an answer. You're going to get a phone call. You're going to say, hey, Chris, we want to have a sit down with you. We want to talk about this. And you're going to go in there, and they're going to have your lawsuit right there, and they're going to sort of quiz you on your own lawsuit, because they want to know, did you write this? Did you get this off the internet? Did somebody else write this for you? Because if you copied this off the internet and it becomes obvious that you don't know what's in this thing, dude, we're going to steamroll your ass.
Right.
We're going to bring you in court, and we're going to steamroll you because you copied this and you have no idea how to litigate it. But when we sit down and we talk, and like I'll do with the property tax people, like Steve told me, Steve, my suit's done. It's ready to go. Steve said, take your time, memorize it, make sure you can rattle it off. So when I sit down with the code idiots and I say, hey, I'm looking at Title 72, Section 4843.1 of the Pennsylvania Fiscal Code, and it states, in order to ascertain the amount of the assessment, a taxpayer must file a return with the county. I've never filed a return with the county. Further, it states that if I don't file a return with the county, that I'll be fined up to $500 or serve up to 6 months in jail. Well, for the 30 years I've had the house, I've never filed this return. I've never been fined $500, and I've never done jail time for not filing this return. So obviously, I must not be a taxpayer under Pennsylvania Fiscal Code, Title 72. Okay? This is how you beat them. When you put that down in a pleading, what are they going to do? Walk in court and go, yeah, we decided we ain't going to follow the Pennsylvania tax code. We just made our own up. But that's what they're doing. They made their own little process up. Yeah, we're not going to follow the state tax code. We're a municipality. We got a home charter. We made our own up. They can't walk into court and do that, and they can't put that in legal papers because that's not the law. The law is very clear on who a taxpayer is and what the requirements of a taxpayer are. And obviously, I don't meet any of those elements because I never filed that return. I've never been fined, and I never did jail time. Here's how you walk them down the road, basically, and you sort of, like Steve said, it's so easy to trap them because they A, are either ignorant, or B, corrupt, or C, are a combination of the two. They're both ignorant and corrupt at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think most of it is more ignorance than anything. You've got these local people, these local administrators, town managers, and tax guy, and they've been doing this stuff for so long, have never been challenged on it. And if you really want an education about if you want to see what these people don't know, go sit down with your head property assessor and ask him a couple questions and watch how quickly he calls for his attorney. He did it with me. Sir, I said, are you saying my property is on the county's property? Dude, I had him so mad. I had him so flustered that he said, yes, that's your problem, Mr. Faggiolo. You didn't go read your deed. Your deed says in Delaware County. My next question, sir, how does the term on my deed that my property is in Delaware County, how exactly does that create a legal obligation upon me to you guys? Dude, total jaw drop. Blank stare. You're going to have to talk to the attorneys. Mr. Van Zelst, aren't you the head property assessor? Yes. Mr. Van Zelst, isn't it your determination to determine what properties go on and off the tax roll? Yes. Does your attorney have that? Does he have that power to put properties? Oh, you got to talk to well, wait a minute. You're the guy. You just told me you're the guy that does this. Then he says, I can't make legal determinations. Wait a minute. You just told me you do. You told me you can put property on and off the tax roll. These are legal determinations. Now when I'm asking you to support your claim, like how are you putting my property on your tax roll, and you can't answer it, suddenly now you're telling me you can't make legal determinations that obviously you've already made. And now you want me to go talk to this private contractor, your attorney, and hope he's going to get you out of this in some way. That he's going to be able to explain what you can't explain. Well, wait a minute. You don't understand your own job. You don't understand what you're doing. And this is how you set these people up. When you sit down and talk to these guys, you're going to be stunned at how little they actually know of the law.
Now, what you were talking,
the assessment guys, they don't even know the tax code. They never read it.
What you're talking about, are you referring to your property tax case?
Right. It's referring to their property tax case, but it refers to everything with the county, whether it's
Yeah.
citations for not getting a permit for your roof or for your driveway. It relates to everything. They don't read the codes. They don't read the actual codes that bind them. Listen, they're what we call creatures of statute. These municipalities were set up under statute. It defines exactly what they can and can't do on that statute. If it's not in that statute, they can't do it.
Right.
Because if they do something that's not in statute, what's that called? Simulation of legal process. Because there is no legal process in any document that gave you authority to do this. How do you jam them up with this? The sewer authority case, I had the administrator on the stand. I asked her 2 questions that she hung herself on. How exactly did my property and me get on your customer roll? And she went through and described the process. She testified a paragraph to a process. Great, thank you very much. Question 2, how does the sewer authority get authority to go to my water company and get my water usage and bill me for my intake water usage based on a sewer tax? It's a sewer fee.
Right.
And not a tax. They can't tax. The sewer authorities can't tax. So it's based on a fee. Where is that? She gave this another paragraph. She responded, this is what they do. So what did I do? I could have done it as a discovery request, but it was after the fact. So I did a Pennsylvania record request, formal record request. Hey, I got the testimony of Miss Nelson here. Provide me the records that the legally promulgated and lawfully promulgated documents that support this process that Ms. Nelson testified for question 1. And I did the same thing for question 2. And the lawyer tried to jump through hoops, trying to explain that this wasn't a record request. I was seeking information. And he was doing cartwheels not to answer this. And he wouldn't answer it. So I had to appeal this up to they have an appeal process in our record request here. Thank God I actually got a fair and honest judge, or the appeals officer who was acted like the judge. Okay. And she actually came back and told the attorney, it's quite clear what Mr. Faggiolo is asking for. And oh, by the way, because he's trying to say there was no timetable of what the records I asked for. Dude, she took them apart. She said, it's obvious what he's asking for. She said, first of all, how can you have records that don't contain information? So, by definition, a record request is an information request. Dude, she took them apart. And then they tried to say, well, they never testified to, there's no designation of what time frame there is. Well, obviously, it had to do with the sewer certification when the property was purchased, she said. And your own administrator stated she can't find the certification. They can't find their own certification. But obviously, the administrator knows the time frame was at the time the property was certified to be put on the rolls. So she didn't let them get away with it. And what did they send me? Well, we found out that they don't have the sewer certification that I'm not required to have anyway. That's for a seller. Here's the best part, Chris. When I went and looked at the sewer certification process on their own website, it states, here's the information we need from you for the certification. And it specifically states, make sure you provide this on your company letterhead. You see a problem there?
Yeah.
They're assuming, what is it for? Isn't that a commercial process? Because they're telling the companies, put it on your company letterhead. Well, I don't have a company here. There's no company at my property here.
Right.
I don't have company letterhead. So how the hell could I get a sewer certification when I don't have company letterhead to put it on? So now we established, A, it's not, the sewer certification process is not for me. And B, even if it was for me, there is no certification, because she told the appeals officer, this administrator of the sewer authority, we can't find the sewer certification. The main thing they need, they can't find. That's like me and you having a contract and me suing you and going to court and you going, where's the contract? And I go, I had it. I lost it. I can't find it. Well, I'm sort of SOL on that. Listen, if I don't have the contract, I can't do nothing to you. You got no liability there. So then number 2, guess what they sent me as their verification to do what they can do. This billing process of going to the water company, getting my water usage and billing me for it. Guess what
What
they
is that?
sent me? It's called a resolution.
Okay.
What's a resolution, Chris?
It should be basically a come to terms with how we're going to move forward.
No. They sent me a company resolution.
To resolve the problem.
Well, an internal resolution that they sent me, it was a corporate bylaw. In other words, it's an internal document. That's what a resolution is. It's to resolve issues within the company. You're right there. That's what a resolution is.
Okay.
So they got together, the sewer authority people, and they created a resolution explaining, like you said, how they were going to resolve the billing of sewer usage. They created a resolution on how to do this billing. Well, isn't that an internal document, a resolution?
Sounds like it.
That's a document for them. It's for their governance. Now we talked about laws. Who makes laws? Does that sewer authority resolution made by it's a private, really, they call themselves a public company, but they actually operate sort of like a private company because they can contract with outside vendors, with outside businesses. So in a way, that's private and public they're mixing. Okay. But does that resolution created by that sewer authority board, are they lawmakers, the sewer authority board?
Not for like our legal system, but are they not lawmakers for their own bylaws?
Yes, for their own company, right? They're lawmakers for their own company. Do I have any legal nexus with that company? Do I have a contract with them in any way? Never signed a contract with them. Okay. So their corporate bylaws, isn't that like McDonald's trying to say, hey, Mr. Faggiolo, you're in violation of our resolution. we passed a resolution. You need to wear yellow sneakers and brown pants. Okay. What's your resolution got to do with me? Like you said, they don't make legal process, right? They can't create legal process. So any documents that they create, the sewer authority, we establish this. They're not lawmaking bodies, right? They're not laws. Their ordinances and their resolutions are not laws. So then if that billing process was created in that resolution, what do we say law is, Chris? It's got to be in written law, right? Mm-hmm. It's got to be in statute. That resolution is not a statute, not even a statute. They can't create statutes. Who creates statutes? They're legislative directives. The legislature creates statutes. So that resolution that the sewer authority people created is not a statute. So then if that billing process they came up with, that resolution, doesn't appear anywhere in any statute, which it does not, isn't that a simulation of legal process? Didn't they make the process like themselves?
So what does this all come down to? Are they charging you for the utility of water and you're saying that you're not responsible for that?
They can't even explain. Yeah, think about it this way. I have water service that I pay for. I don't have to get water service if I don't want it. I can do rain catchment. But for convenience, I get water service and I pay them quarterly. I signed an agreement with them. But if I decide I don't want the water service, they'll just shut my water off. Okay? They don't come place liens on my property because I didn't use their water service. So same thing with the electric company. I don't have to get electric. I can put solar grids up here and, if I decide I don't want electric service, I can tell the electric company, no, I don't want your service. And they'll just shut my electricity off, right? Mm-hmm. And they won't come place liens on my house, right? They can't.
No.
So the sewer authority, think about it. Hey, I don't want your service. I never contracted for your service. Well, now we're going to come lien your house because you're not taking our service. Isn't that sort of like, isn't that trying to force me into a contract? How can they force me into a contract? They can't. Okay. Right. Listen, when you read what the charges are with the sewer authority, they were paid by the builder. Connection fee, tapping fee. These are things the builder paid. Okay. He was their customer. When they built the development here, he made a determination instead of putting septic tanks in, they wanted to connect to the sewers, the municipal sewers. So he paid a tapping fee and he paid a connection fee and he paid all these fees associated with taking a property and connecting it to the sewer. He was their customer, not me. Right. Now, when he sells the property, that should have ended it. Okay. But what they've done is they've said, hey, let's take the obligation from the builder and place it upon the new homeowner. Well, I can't find that in any statutory process or law in Pennsylvania. And I read everything involving the sewer authority. It doesn't exist anywhere where it states that if I buy property in Pennsylvania or in Delaware County, that I automatically become a customer of the sewer authority. Doesn't exist anywhere. And guess what? They can't produce any documents to show that it exists. They can't reference any laws that shows it exists. And even the sewer certification, which we just talked about, that I'm not required to have, because why? You put it on your company letterhead. They don't even have that. So what's that tell you about how they're conducting business? Are they following the statutes? No. Okay.
Right.
So they're simulating legal process. Aren't they falsifying their customer role?
It sounds like it based off what you're saying.
They can't explain how my property or me got on the customer list. They can't explain it. But here's the real big thing with this. Is this happening to just me, Chris, here in Delaware County?
I would imagine
This is happening to tens of thousands of people in Delaware County. This is happening to. I'll bet it's 80 to 85% of their customer roll shouldn't be on their customer roll. They've been doing this for years. Isn't this RICO? Isn't this racketeering? You develop the process. It doesn't exist in any statute. You develop this process, and you're literally stealing money from the people through this corporate process. That's called racketeering. It's RICO. Okay? This is what racketeering is. That's the definition of racketeering. They created this own process that doesn't exist in any legal process to take money from people. But that's not just my sewer case, Chris. That's the traffic citation stuff. That's the building code guy bothering you. Okay? That's whoever's bothering you, sending you some crap in the mail saying that you had some obligation to that municipality and you didn't follow this obligation, and now we're going to fine you for that. So it's not just about and that's why I reference back to the sewer case, it's not about a sewer. It's about the principles of the sewer case. It applies to driving stuff. It applies to getting codes for putting roofs on houses and permits for putting driveways in. It's all the same stuff. Once you get that principle locked in your head, that it's not just about my sewer case. My sewer case is your traffic case. It's your code enforcement case. It's whatever is going on with you. It's the same exact case. Because we talked about how jurisdiction's established.
Right.
And what jurisdiction is. And if you could start putting this stuff together, you could start knocking these people on their asses. I got people in my group do it. I just had a guy, he's called Brandon, the Big Sib. I don't know if you know the Big Sib. He's got a pretty big YouTube channel. But he's involved with a will for his, I think it's his stepmother.
Okay.
Dude, he took the stuff I showed him, and he's a smart guy, man. He went and read American jurisprudence. He went to the library and got copies and read it. And he just got the attorney to recuse himself at the hearing. The attorney recused himself at the hearing, the other attorney. He said as the attorney was recusing himself, believe it or not, he said the judge was smiling.
That's awesome.
You know what that was? Dude, know what that judge was looking at? Thank God he's not another monkey. I got somebody here in front of me that knows the actual law. I just watched some pro se guy who's not a lawyer, no law education, just knock a seasoned attorney on his ass and rattle him so bad because he showed the criminal acts, the rule violations of the rules of professional conduct that this attorney violated, that the attorney got his rear end out of that case.
What was that guy's name that you said?
Brandon. His name's the Big Sib.
The big.
I would do an interview with him too. Contact him, man.
Yeah, I will. That's why I was asking. And I'm definitely gonna have links for your Telegram and your YouTube channel, as well as your website, which is going to be revamped.
He got an agent on the secret. He got an agent on the president's Secret Service detail. Didn't have to take the vaccine.
Oh wow, very cool.
Dude, this is right. You're talking echelons of power, right? He helped. He helped somebody, and they didn't have to take the vaccine. Okay,
that is crazy.
So he's out there filing stuff too, but he's doing the same thing we're doing here. What I'm telling you about, it's all about jurisdiction, and it's about whatever claims we made against you, who's making a claim, and on what legal basis does this claim exist?
Right. Well, it takes the research, the time, and the knowledge. You have to be knowledgeable in the things that you're saying. So, all right. Well, one, I always appreciate your time. I thought I was going to have time based off of when we started recording to try to do this separate recording. And if you're cool with it, I'll try to reschedule something with you for that because I have some other commitments. But I will be putting this interview out on Thursday, the 17th. It'll be put on my Patreon channel tonight. Do you have anything that you want to add to today's conversation before we wrap up that we didn't cover?
Yeah, it's listen, don't give these people like guys like Cal Washington. Oh, Cal's a smart guy, man. I don't no doubt that Cal's a smart guy. But Cal's giving these people way too much credit. Okay, there's these secret trusts going on, and these judges know, and they're not telling it to tell anybody. He's giving these people way too much credit. These people, a lot of these people, are flat out ignorant of the law. Okay,
right?
And they're so used to, like we were talking about, operating under customs, practices, and policies. In other words, they've been doing this stuff for decades. Okay, it's almost taken on the force of law. It's not law. But just because they've been doing it, no one calls them on it, it almost takes on the force of law. They sort of enforce it as law, okay? So never cede anything to the other side. Like if you get something filed against you, they're going to make an assumption that whatever, Title 53 gave the municipality the authority to file this municipal claim against you or this lien. Well, first thing I'm going after is, what evidence do you have that Title 53 has anything to do with me? Burden of proof's on them. I don't need to prove that Title 53. It's another thing, people. I want to get hammer home to people. Burden of proof is always on the accuser. So if you're going to claim Title 53 gave you this authority, you better bring some witnesses in here and evidence that Title 53 has anything to do with me at all. So
right.
First thing I go after is Title 53. I'm not going to argue the details of what they're saying. Well, we can't get past point A yet to get to point B. We can't address what they're arguing about because they haven't proved point A yet, that what they're bringing in has anything to do with me. That's the same thing with a traffic matter or a tax matter or a problem with the code guy. Never give them any ground. You always go back to, what evidence do you have that this thing you're citing has anything to do with me? What evidence do you have that your ordinances, we talked about what ordinances are, have anything to do with me? And let them come back and prove how their ordinances apply to you.
Right.
Well, Mr. Faggiolo is an inhabitant of the township. Objection. Define inhabitant. Sir, define inhabitant. Because if you're going to call me an inhabitant, you got to define it.
Right.
Now what's the lawyer do? Means he's a member or he's a resident of, sir, define resident. Because it's all coming back to members, to what an inhabitant is, a member of the corporation. Sir, obviously, I'm not a member of the Township of Aston. I'm not an employee. I have no contracts with these people. I don't work for these people. They're not a lawmaking body. They can't pass laws against me. So what is this ordinance you're bringing against me? Are you saying this ordinance is a law? What's he going to say? No, he can't say an ordinance is a law. He can never argue that. Now, what did I just set him up for? Now, can I bring him in federal district court under Title 42, Section 1983, deprivation of law?
Repeat that again, the last part of what you just said.
By doing what I just told you there, didn't I just set him up for a Title 42, Section 1983 lawsuit, which is a deprivation of rights under the color of law?
Deprivation.
Because he's trying to enforce an ordinance as a law upon me or my property. We already know that an ordinance is not a law. Well, if an ordinance isn't a law and they're trying to apply it as a law, wouldn't that be the color of law? It's not law. It looks like a law because they passed it, but it's not a law because only the legislature makes laws.
Right.
Now I got him set up for a Title 42, 1983 lawsuit. Now, also, isn't that lawyer conspiring with the people from the township and with the local municipal courts by doing all this illegal, fraudulent crap, sending me this crap in my mail that I owed him this money?
Sounds like it.
I'm pretty sure that's Title 18, Section 1341. That's mail fraud going on there, okay? Basically, aren't they simulating legal processes? They're making it up pretty much as they go along. Because you and I know the legal process. You sue somebody, you have a process server come to their house, and you serve them a complaint and a summons. That's not what you guys are doing. So now, aren't they conspiring among each other to deprive me of my rights? You know what my rights are. I have a right to do due process. I got a right to see that complaint and the summons, and so that I can answer it properly. But they're not doing that, and they're all doing it as a group together. So now we're into Title 18, 241, and 242. We go into the criminal codes, okay? Now we're talking about these are crimes, and I think the one is 20 years, up to 20 years of prison they could face for a conspiracy against rights. It's got to be a conspiracy against rights, because I have a right to a trial by jury. I have a right to due process. And gee, you guys just ran this little administrative court process around me without having any jurisdiction, without having any complaint filed with anybody, with any court.
Right.
And you enforced it as it is law, and you enforced it over my inalienable inherent rights. If my rights are inalienable and they're inherent, they can never be taken from me. Okay? That's why I don't need to reserve my rights. I bang my head when people write, all rights reserved. Why would I reserve a right that is inalienable that I can never lose? Why would I reserve something I can never lose? You know?
Right.
It's like me reserving my thumb. Hey, listen, I'm in this hearing. I reserve my thumb. Okay? No, it's with me. It can never be taken from me. You know, it's inalienable. It's inherent. So the main last point is stop assuming that things apply to you because somebody said they apply to you. Go back and use the Socratic method. Who, what, where, when, and why. What evidence do you have that that thing you filed against me, whatever it is, has any applicability to me? What evidence do you have that your code that says I need to get a permit to put a roof on my house has any applicability to me? Let them scramble and try and explain how they're doing what they're doing. Because what you're going to find out is, A, they're not going to be able to explain it, or B, if they really don't know what they're doing, which is most of the time, they're so easy to shut down. Because on like that example, they'll run back and say, well, the Pennsylvania Building Code, well, time out. What the hell's the Pennsylvania Building Code got to do with my property?
Right.
How are people building code? How are they determining what I can do with my property? Wouldn't that violate my rights to own my property? If some commission out there can go make codes telling me what to do with my property, wouldn't that violate my right to own the property?
You think so?
What if they said I got to put sprinklers in all my rooms? Building commission said it. Got to put sprinklers in all my rooms. Wouldn't that violate my right to own the property? They're telling me what I can and can't do with my property.
No,
They
it
don't have
definitely
those
does.
rights.
And I would
They don't
love
have
to
those
talk
rights.
to you,
That-
in the future about the homeowners associations and things like that, because that's another conversation for another time. I do got to wrap up.
If anybody involved in that, go download the Steve Emerson document up on my Telegram site. It's a HOA condo document. It's 2 pages. 2 pages.
And it's right on the Telegram group.
Go up there, download that, modify it for your situation, and send it to your HOA or condo people. Because all it is, it's a clarification of the issues.
Okay, cool.
And it's asking the basic stuff, you know.
Well, Alphonse, thanks again, man. And I will have links down below for the Telegram group, for your webpage, for your YouTube channel, and also for the playlist with the other 2 previous episodes you did with me. So if you can bear with me 1 second, just going to wrap up things and stop recording. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. If you haven't seen those previous episodes with Alphonse, make sure you're checking out the playlist in my playlist section. If this is your first time watching any of my videos, make sure you're subscribed. I'd encourage you to hit the notification bell so you can stay alerted for new videos when they come out. Make sure you subscribe also to the backup channel, Rice TV X2. Both channels are on YouTube. And I will leave you with this. Be blessed, be the change, practice change.